everyone, and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is presented to you by LawSeco. So, today we will be discussing two articles. The first one is from the Hindu newspaper, which is titled as An Unconscionable Act. This article talks about that what steps should India be taking regarding the Myanmar coup, which is happening and has destructed the democracy over there, and being an international friend and an advocate of the human rights, what steps should India be thinking in this direction? The second article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as Just Not About Vacancies. This article very rightly points out the problem of vacancies in the Indian judiciary and specifically the high courts in various states. And finally, we have the News in Flash column. Before moving further, let's have a look at Project Maverick, which is CLAT preparation course from LawSeco. This is a very nice course if you're preparing for CLAT 2021 or 2022. This is very much pocket friendly as only cost ₹100. You can check out this course from the description box below. With this, let's see what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. King Anangpal II, who is considered as the founder of Delhi, belonged to which dynasty? Your options are Chola, Rashtrakoot, Rajput, or Tomar. This is the descriptive question for the day. How vacancies in the Indian judiciary cause a problem? What steps have been taken by the Supreme Court in this direction? With this, let's discuss the first article for the day, which talks about the Myanmar coup in India. First of all, let me give you a brief understanding and a brief event chronology that has taken place. So as we know that Myanmar had developed itself into a democracy, but just about a month ago, the army, which is the Myanmar army, has taken up complete dictatorship in Myanmar and has totally replaced the democratic setup. So amidst this brutal military dictatorship in Myanmar, the people of Myanmar have pleaded international community for their support. Now, as the local government, which was there in Myanmar, has been completely disrupted and disrooted by the military of that particular country, the people over there are looking forward that the international community will stand up in their support. In this situation, it is very much important for India to understand as to what shall be the international stance that India would be taking on this particular issue. As we know that most of the Indian northeastern states share its border with Myanmar, and thus whatever happens in Myanmar is of prime importance for India as well. With this, let's understand that what has been India's stance or take up on this issue till now. It is very unfortunate to see that we as Indians or at the international front have engaged in a double speak. Now, what do we mean by a double speak? It generally means that we say something else and we do something else. Basically, we don't practice what we preach. How can we say so? Because India made relatively strong statements as part of the United Nations Security Council and the UNHRC in support of the people. As we know that currently India is one of the non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, and also India is a strong advocate of the human rights at the United Nations Human Rights Commission, basically the United Nations Human Rights Council, and thus India being a strong supporter of human rights should do something in this direction. But in spite of doing something, it seems that only we are saying such things because simultaneously India is also detaining and preparing to deport the Rohingya refugees to Myanmar. Now, who at all are the Rohingya refugees? We have discussed several times before, but I'll tell you once again that just like there are various communities, the minor communities, which are many times persecuted in their various nations. Like, for example, if we talk about the Xinjiang province of China, then there we have the Uyghur Muslims who are highly, oppressed, and they're very much, ill-treated by the locals over there. Similarly, there is a province called as Rakhine. It's a province which is there it is a state which is it's basically an area in Myanmar country wherein these people who belong to the Rohingya community stay. But they have been highly, persecuted, and they have been highly ill-treated in the country Myanmar. And thus, to keep themselves safe, they fled into the borders that were shared by the Indian states on the northeastern side, and thus they came to India. But this is very much contrary that on one side where India talks about international peace and cooperation and also advocates the human rights, on the other side, when it itself has to take a decision, it is itself preparing to deport these Rohingya refugees back to Myanmar. So if we talk about the Rohingya refugees, the Ministry of Home Affairs has labeled them as infiltrators and not refugees. Now, should we be really concerned as to whatever they are named? See, if at all they are considered to be as refugees, then they will have certain rights and claims when it comes to the international law. But if at all the country in which they are coming labels them to be as infiltrators, then legal actions can be taken against such people, and thus they would not be entitled to any such rights by means of international law. And thus, in this situation, Ministry of Home Affairs in India has labeled them as infiltrators and not as refugees. And also, it has issued a diktat to border states to check the illegal influx. Now, this needs to be kept in mind that whatever this movement is taking place, by whatever reasons due to which it is happening, Indian Home Ministry has labeled it to be as an illegal influx. So, which means that we are completely not in favor of this, and thus whoever would be infiltrating or coming to the Indian borders or towards the Indian side would be considered to be as infiltrators who are using illegal means to walk into the country. So this is why the Rohingya would fall within the legal definition of refugees, that is well-founded fear of prosecution. Now, this is one thing that we need to consider, that though the Ministry of Home Affairs has labeled the Rohingyas as the infiltrators and not refugees, but if we talk about the basic tenets of the international law, so these people who are running away from the Rakhine state, these Rohingya people who are coming and moving into India, they would definitely fall under the definition or the legal definition of refugees, which means that any community that has a well fear of persecution, which means they are treated very badly in their own state, and thus to save their lives they ran into our own territory. And that is why they should not be treated, or they should not be claimed to be taken as the infiltrators, and they would definitely fall under the legal definition of refugees under the international law. So if we talk about the crimes against the Rohingya, so as per a few reports, the Rohingya refugees are being detained in India and they are prepared to be deported back to Myanmar, which definitely, as we just discussed, is contrary to what India has been advocating at the international front with regard to the human rights. Secondly, there is a case before the International Court of Justice as well, which relates to the violations of Genocide Convention by Myanmar. Which was brought by Gambia, and it was later joined by Canada, Netherlands, and Maldives. So it states that thus the persecution, or in a way the genocide which is happening in the in the Myanmar is well proven even at the international front. And thirdly, the prosecutor of International Criminal Court is investigating international crimes against Rohingya. So as we know that even the International Criminal Court, please consider that International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court are two separate individual bodies, and ICJ, the International Court of Justice, is a principal organ of the United Nations, whereas the International Criminal Court is in itself an independent body. Here, the International Criminal Court, which is the ICC, can also try individuals for crimes like war, genocide, etc. And thus, these two are separate bodies. But interestingly, both the International Court of Justice as well as the International Criminal Court have their headquarters in Hague in Switzerland. So if we consider through the geography as well, there is, as we had discussed, there is this Rakhine province from where the Rohingya Muslims, when they're persecuted by the locals over there in Myanmar, they move to various areas. They also have moved to West Bengal, Bangladesh, and also to the northeastern states that share a border with Myanmar. So we have Tripura, we have Mizoram, and also we have Manipur. Also, many of these people from the Rohingya community have also fled away to Thailand and as well as to Malaysia. So these are the, we should also know that which are the Indian states that share the border with Myanmar. So these states are Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, and Arunachal Pradesh. So thus there are 4 states. Please keep in mind that Tripura in itself does not share a border with Myanmar. Rather, Tripura shares a border with Bangladesh. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about the concerns about composition of judiciary. Recently, a report has been tabled in Parliament by the Standing Committee of the Ministry of Law and Justice that provided details regarding the status of judicial appointments in High Court. And by this report, it has been clearly stated that there have been a lot of vacancies in the Indian judiciary, specifically if we talk about various high courts. So if we try to critically study the report, currently, 419 posts, which is 419 posts, which is approximately 39%, are vacant in the high courts. So you can understand, if at all there are 100 posts to be there in high courts, 39 of them are vacant. So just we can understand that 419 posts are still vacant in the high courts. 211 recommendations are yet to be received from the High Court collegiums. So as we know that in India, for the appointment of the judges, the collegium system is followed, and still 211 recommendations are pending for such appointments. Then Allahabad High Court has the most vacancies, that is 64 seats are still vacant, which is followed by Calcutta, wherein 40 vacancies are there, and further followed by Punjab and Haryana High Court, where 37 vacancies are there. So it has also instructed the department to request all the stakeholders to expedite the appointment process, which means, though many a times such things have been taken care of, that the process of appointment is sped up, which means that we should do a speedy appointment in the case of High Court, but hardly any actions have been taken in this direction. And also, Article 217 of the Indian Constitution provides for the appointment of the judges of High Court. Also, it provides for a memorandum of procedure, which was initiated by the Chief Justice of High Court to begin 6 months prior to the vacancy. So it says that, for example, if a vacancy has to cause, let's say, after 6 months from now, so the process of new appointment shall begin at a prior date of 6 months. But this timeline is not really followed in the real and practical sense. Though the Supreme Court has taken actions on these vacancies, as in the case of Malik Mazhar Sultan versus UPPCS, PSC in 2006, the Supreme Court described timelines for selection of judges at the state level. And then in October 2018, Supreme Court took suo motu cognizance of vacancies in district judiciary and sought reports regarding vacancies and physical infrastructure. But the hard reality is that no such practical steps have been taken care of and have been taken even after such cognizance has been taken by the Supreme Court also. So let's understand that what the Supreme Court actually missed in this area. So the delay in filing of High Court vacancies and the productivity of individual judges and courts was not considered. See, for filling in the vacancies, the first step that needs to be taken is that one should be noticed, as in it should be noticed, or it should be brought to the notice that such vacancies are there in the High Court. And that is why there has been a delay in filing the High Court vacancies in the first place. And also, how much the judges have been productive on the individual basis and how much productive have the courts been has also not been tackled with. This actually shows that at one place where we talk about the pendency of so many cases in the Indian judiciary, we have not been paying attention as to how much are we lacking on proper appointment of the High Court judges, specifically in these High Courts, if we talk about Calcutta, Allahabad, and Punjab and Haryana. Also, the Supreme Court also missed the composition of the higher judiciary, which means that the women are fairly underrepresented. And as we know that even in the Supreme Court, if we say, there were just 2 female judges, of which one has been recently retired. And if we talk about the High Courts as well, there are hardly, a very small percentage of the judges' composition is of females as well. Thus, to be properly sensitized towards various issues that are there in the society, it is desirable that not only the collegium or not only the vacancies are filled within time, but also we make sure that the representation is equal for both men and women. With this, let's see what do we have for news in flash today. Firstly, Ken-Betwa interlinking work. Now, as we know that Ken and Betwa are very 2 important rivers. So the government of UP and Madhya Pradesh have signed an agreement for the long-stalled multi-crore project to link the Ken and the Betwa rivers and irrigate the water-deficient Bundelkhand region, which stretches over both the states. But one issue that has been brought up in this Ken-Betwa project is that it might submerge, or it might really harm the area of Panna Tiger Reserve, which is a home to various jackals and vultures. Secondly, Gandhi Peace Prize. The Culture Ministry has awarded Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is considered as the father of nation of Bangladesh, and also is the father of current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who is the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and former Sultan of Oman, late Qaboos bin Said Al Said, with the Gandhi Peace Prize. Thirdly, Bhagat Singh Execution Day. So today is the martyrdom day for Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Sukhdev, who were hanged to death on evening of March 23rd, 1931, 11 hours before the time fixed for their execution. So he was subjected to two trials, as in Bhagat Singh. That was the smoke bomb at the Central Legislative Assembly in April 1929, and the murder of police probationer John Saunders on December 17, 1928. So today is the day that marks the martyrdom for Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Sukhdev. So this was all for the day. We hope it was a good session for you. Thank you so much for staying tuned with Lossy Co.